Have you ever felt like you connect with someone, right at the start? Maybe a few great conversations,
Hmm.
but then things just kind of level off. Or maybe a relationship that felt really solid just starts to fizzle out.
Oh, absolutely. That's a
Ah,
super common experience, I think.
yeah,
Very familiar for a lot of people.
right. And that's exactly what we're digging into today. This deep dive is really for anyone who wants to get a better handle on, well, how healthy relationships actually get built.
Yeah, and how to communicate better.
Exactly. How to communicate in ways that build real connection, and also, importantly, how to tell when, putting in the effort is worthwhile versus maybe when it's time to step back a bit.
That discernment piece is crucial.
It really is. We've been looking over some really interesting ideas about how relationships develop and what good communication actually looks like from the material you shared.
Yes, some great points in there.
So let's just jump right in with something I think lots of us wonder about. Why do so many relationships seem to just stall or even end pretty quickly when they started off feeling so promising?
That's a really big question to start with. And I think often it comes down to a bit of a misunderstanding about how relationships naturally work, how they evolve.
Okay.
Think about it like phases, maybe.
Yeah.
There's usually that initial, excitement, that
In
high,
honeymoon phase, kinda.
sort of, yeah.
Oh.
And then ideally that shifts into something more stable. But then challenges always come up, always.
Right. Life happens.
Exactly. And where things often seem to go wrong is when we expect that first intense feeling, that initial buzz, to just last forever, to be the default state.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. Like expecting the fireworks display to just keep going nonstop.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Real relationships, the ones that last, just like anything valuable, they need constant attention. They
Yeah.
need like intentional effort. We often call it maintenance.
Okay, maintenance. Let's unpack that because it sounds important, but maybe a bit like work. What does that actually look like day to day? What are we really talking about?
Well, at its core, relationship maintenance is really about um, consistent and meaningful communication. But, and this is key, it's not just talking more.
Right. Quantity isn't quality.
Precisely. It's about the quality of how you interact. A huge part of it is active listening, like really tuning in to what the other person is saying, not just the words, but the feeling behind them.
Trying to understand where they're coming from.
Yes. And it also means expressing your own feelings, your own needs, but in a way that doesn't immediately put the other person on the defensive.
Okay, can you give an example of that?
Sure. So instead of saying something accusatory like you're always busy with other things, which, invites defensiveness.
Yeah, immediately puts their back up.
Right. You might try expressing your own experience. Maybe something like, I felt kind of lonely when we didn't get a chance to connect last week. See the difference. It's about your feeling, not their perceived failing.
That's a really clear distinction. Focusing on I feel instead of you did. That's
Mhm.
helpful. Oh, okay, but what if? What if you feel like you're the one doing that? You're trying the I feel statements, you're reaching out, trying to do the maintenance, but the other person just seems checked out or unresponsive.
Yeah. That's tough. And that's definitely when you need to do some, let's say, honest self-reflection.
Okay.
You really have to look at the dynamic. Is it balanced? Is there like a mutual respect happening? Do both people seem to value each other's effort?
So it's a two-way street, or it should be.
It absolutely should be. If you find you're consistently the one initiating everything, the one carrying all the emotional load,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's a pretty big red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy relationships, they develop together. It's give and take. It's not one person doing all the work while the other just coasts. It needs that mutual investment.
Okay. So for someone listening right now who might be hearing this and thinking, yeah, that sounds kind of familiar, what are maybe one or two concrete first steps they could take, something practical to try and, improve things with someone they care about?
Right, actionable steps. Based on some of the strategies we looked at, there are three things that can often make a difference pretty quickly. First one, intentionally set aside time for open, honest talk.
Like schedule it.
Maybe not rigidly scheduled, but dedicate time. Find moments when you can talk calmly, away from like the usual daily stresses or the specific problem that might be causing tension.
Like a relationship check-in.
Exactly, a dedicated check-in. That's a great way to put it. So that's one.
Okay, what's number two?
Second step is to really practice deep listening. And this is harder than it sounds sometimes. It's not just waiting for your turn to jump in.
Guilty as charged sometimes.
We all are. It's about truly focusing on understanding the other person's whole message. Not just the words, but their tone, maybe what their body language is saying.
Uh,
What are the emotions underneath it all? Really try to get their perspective.
Listening to understand, not just to reply.
You got it. That's the core of it. And the third thing, which sounds almost too simple, is to consciously show appreciation.
Like saying thank you more.
Yes, but genuinely. Regularly acknowledging the other person. Simple things like a sincere thank you for listening, or I really appreciate your support, or even just I value you being here. These little moments, these affirmations, they can have a surprisingly big impact.
It's amazing how far a little bit of appreciation goes, isn't it? Strengthens that feeling of being seen, being valued.
It really does. Connection
Good to know.
thrives on that.
Okay, but let's flip this around. We're talking about maintenance, communication, appreciation. But what if, despite trying these things, it still feels like the relationship just isn't, well, working?
Hmm?
Are there times when maybe continuing to invest isn't the best idea?
Yes, absolutely. That's a really important part of the picture, too. Not every connection is meant to last forever. And sometimes pouring more energy into a relationship can actually be harmful to you.
Okay. So what are the signs then?
Well, if a relationship consistently chips away at your self-respect, or if it leaves you feeling drained all the time, depleted, or if there are patterns of control, or you just don't feel emotionally or even physically safe,
Right.
those are serious signals. In those situations, you have to honestly ask yourself, is this adding value to my life or taking away from it? And sometimes, stepping back, creating distance. It's actually an act of self-respect. Self-care, really.
That's a powerful way to frame it, withdrawal as self-care. So if someone gets to that difficult point, that realization that they need to step back,
Mhm.
how do they do that? How do you end things or create distance maturely without causing like unnecessary hurt?
It's delicate, for sure. But the key principles, I think, are honesty and respect, even when it's hard.
Honesty with kindness.
Exactly. It's about communicating your truth, but doing it with compassion. For instance, you might need to say something like, uh, I really value the time we spent together, I do, but I've realized this relationship isn't supporting my well-being anymore, and I need to create some space right now to focus on myself. Something like that. It's direct, but respectful.
It's still going to be painful, probably.
It likely will be, yes.
Yeah.
Delivering that kind of news is never easy.
Yeah.
But clarity, even painful clarity, delivered kindly, is almost always more respectful in the long run than
Yeah.
just ghosting someone or dragging it out or having a big
Well,
blow up.
that sudden withdrawal with no explanation can be really damaging. Clear communication, even when it's tough news, feels more respectful. Okay. Now, earlier you mentioned something really interesting, the link between our like inner world and our outer relationships. Can you expand on that a bit? How does our relationship with ourselves affect things?
Oh, definitely. It's pretty fundamental, actually. The foundation for healthy connections with others. It often starts with having a solid relationship with yourself.
How so?
Well, think about self-awareness. When you really understand your own values, your needs, your strengths, but also your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities,
Knowing yourself.
knowing yourself, exactly. That knowledge deeply influences the kinds of relationships you choose in the first place. You're more likely to pick partners or friends who are genuinely good for you, supportive, aligned with who you are.
So, better choices from the start.
Better choices from the start. And then, when conflicts pop up, because they always do, having that strong sense of self means you can navigate them better. You can state your needs clearly. You could look for solutions without completely losing yourself in the other person's needs or the drama of the situation.
Without compromising who you are.
Precisely. It provides like an anchor. So really nurturing that healthy inner life, that self-relationship, that's the bedrock for building good stuff externally.
That's a really powerful thought. That the strongest relationships, in a way, start inside. So, okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's maybe one final idea or thought you'd want to leave with everyone listening today?
I guess I'd encourage you, everyone listening, to see your relationships as this ongoing journey. It's a journey of like questioning, developing, learning. Be patient with it. Meaningful connections, they take time to build.
Patience is key.
It really is. And maybe just remember that delicate balance. Relationships are built up over time with care, with intention. But they can be damaged really quickly by careless words or thoughtless actions or just not being mindful. So that intention matters a lot.
That's a great reminder. Intention and patience. Thank you so much for walking us through all of this today. It's been incredibly insightful.
My pleasure. Good conversation.
Yeah, really good. I'm sure everyone tuning in has picked up at least one valuable idea, maybe a small step they can try out in their own lives. We'll definitely keep exploring these vital parts of our lives in future deep dives.